Hey Chris, it's Yanni. How's it going, man? Saw your note on Facebook that you were looking for feedback on your PR. We hope to be able to help you in some way. Um, it'll be a bit of flaff, essentially, that I'll be telling you, so don't pay attention too much. I have no idea what I'm talking about. The shot's looking great, it's coming along nicely. It's really, really, really looking great. It's nice and smooth. You've also got a lot of time to actually keep fixing little things, because we've still got another week on this, thank God. And things that jump out at me again, and kind of like being really minute in detail here, especially kind of like having a look at the two starting characters. And on frame 4, one of them is making a gesture with his hand, and his hand is moving horizontally across the screen like that. Try to add something like a bit of a curve or something instead of having it moving into a straight line. It's literally 4 frames of just a hand moving perfectly horizontal. That gesture just doesn't look human enough to me to an extent. It just looks tweened, so that's one of the things that I would address. But coming more into more details, the drop feels really nice. I like the way that his body actually kind of like the impact travels down his body. Although you've got this kind of like movement that goes through the body in frame 27, and in there you might want to add a bit of a kick up with the feet so that motion kind of like continues from the top of the body, and it almost is like a ripple. So it kind of like starts out at the top of the body, it impacts, goes through frame 26, 27, and you've got a little bit of it in frame 32, but it's just a bit too subtle. So I just kick that foot up and down a little bit more, and that might just give you something that looks, a little bit more visually interesting. Now, the main thing that jumps out to me is that when he basically stands up, he's got two kind of like gestures here, where like in frame 55, he kind of like is standing up, and then he kind of like drops himself down in frame 59. So between 55 and 59, there's basically he's lowering just the top part of his body because the hips have already moved beforehand. You want to keep those two motions at the same time in the sense of, the arms can finish later, but the thing is that it doesn't really make much sense that he kind of like goes up into a position at frame 55 where he's almost ready in a position, and then for him to just drop like that and kind of like squish himself a little bit more. It just looks a bit unnatural. I love the very nice, quick kind of like moves to the side of the head. Those are really, really, really cool. The thing that I think that also jumps out to me a bit is that you do have a bit of a jerk on the hand on frame 94, because it's kind of like it looks fairly smooth, and then when he turns around, the hand kind of like pops a little bit on frame 94. So I'd have a look there and just make sure that your in betweens are nice and smooth. So you might have to add a few frames there. The movement of him round is really, really, really quick. And on frame, is it 94 as well? Yeah, on 94 you've also got a pop of the leg, a big one, so it's like he flips round and there's no time whatsoever. I think you need to add a step there, a quick step, maybe 4 frames or something like that of the foot just rising around, because currently again it's popping like that, and it's such a change between the shape of the leg in frame 92 to 94. It's more than 90 degrees of a spin, and that really kind of like throws me off. It's the same as when he moves his foot round. I'm not sure if this is something you're going to layer in later, but in frame 96, his left leg, it pivots round, and you'd probably want to basically change the weight so that the weight of the body is more on the front leg, so that it actually pivots and rise the back of the left leg up a little bit, so it kind of like is squashed here and it pivots there instead of pivoting completely flat like that. Um, the anticipation, really nice, very comedic. I think you can get a better line of action here though, because he's kind of like he's in a bit of an S. I think that if you wanted to keep it nice and cartoony, you might just want to look at the pose in frame 110, and I think that you could get much more action out of it if it's actually a C. He's much more like an S shape right now. So try to basically do an inverse C of him looking towards the door and see if you can get more of that, almost like build up to an extent, because the right hand is currently locked in the hand almost like at 90 degrees. You might want to change that angle a little bit, favor the direction that he's going to go into on the top of the body, and lean him out. That might work, but what definitely jumps out at me is especially the pose in the knee. The knee basically collides with the body. You want to keep that knee separate. And again, think about it in silhouette, even though it's not real. Try to keep as much of the knee visible as you actually can. And also when the foot drops in frame 120, really make that foot drop, fast, in the sense of there's a lot of spacing there. You might just want to add one more frame before it hits the ground, and basically get that sense of the foot hitting the ground, bang, very spot on, and add some overlap with the toes as well, just with the frame as well, just so we get the ba-bam kind of like motion of the foot going down, because there's so much force there. You really want it that when that foot goes down, bump, and frame 121, you've just had a little bit more motion there, so it's not kind of like up here and it's already in place. Add some more kind of like frames there so it shows the force of the actual hit. I'd also, in frame 126, he's kind of like jumping. Get the left arm and space it away from the body. Okay, so very much, again, silhouette. That type of pose where basically we can see the angles of the joints very clearly and keep the hands well away from the body, because he can do, and that way it looks like he's much more going in the direction of the jump. Currently in frame 126, he's really vertical and he's almost like leaning back, which is good to go into the pose kind of like, frame 128, really nice pose, like it basically the way that he kind of like the heel's almost on the floor and it hits the ground. Great, that's exactly what you need, And then another picky little thing, this one might be a bit difficult, because in frame 133, sorry, he slams his hand against the door, trying to get that hand in a place where it's visible, and that's either going to be moving the head slightly out the way, but make sure that we can see the hand basically touch the wall, because that's the gesture that's going to show us that the door's locked. So basically make sure that bang, the first thing he does is hit the door with his hand, and then basically he does that. So it's almost like the hand can be more outreached than it really is on frame 133. So make sure that you can see that, so make sure that that hand planting is fine, and then he can step into the wall and cover it up a little bit more. But make sure that you can see that gesture. And then his hand comes up, nice little detail on the legs, move the guards, moving around. Him stepping back, again you've got this sliding foot thing again, where he kind of like from frame 152 to frame 160. On frame 160, he's kind of like the foot's just slid on the floor. Step, right? So it's like if he's going to step back, make him lift the foot up, drop it back, and that way you can change the shift of the weight, and also make the weight drop and then the body turns with it, and that basically will give you the impression of bump, looking back, bump, looking forward again. So keep that weight shifting on the body. And then the last thing is on the kick. This is a bit tough because of the camera angle that you've got, but I think in frame 186 the foot's gone through the door. I'm not sure if you're going to make the door kind of like bend later on, but you want to again do a little bit of spacing and look at your posing, just so that again you can see the foot go back and let it kick the door. And if the door basically just pops and it flies out of the frame, I think that should be fine as well. But make sure that that foot is visible for at least a few frames, and then it drops down, and that lets him run out. And again, kind of like when he falls forward, I think that that's a good opportunity in frame 190 to have the head drop down as well, further forward, so he's already tumbling forward and running out the door. And yeah, but as I said before, everything's kind of like looking great. Fantastic work, and best of luck, man. Hope to see this finished by tomorrow, and I've got to finish my assignment as well, so take care. Good luck.